YouTube. So glad you're here. It's Money Monday on the YouTube channel, and glad you're hanging out here. My name is Dr. Troy. I'm the Oola Guru. I hang out on this channel with my good buddy, Dr. Dave, the Oola Seeker, and we co-wrote an international best-selling book series called Oola, and it comes from the word ooh la la. It's about finding more balance in life, and specifically on Mondays, we have Money Monday, where we talk about personal finances, because money, or finance, is one of the 7 key areas of life. They are fitness, finance, family, field, faith, friends, and fun. And I have some interesting stats here from our most recent event called Oolapalooza. It's a 2-day event we do in Vegas. It's a blast where we map out the next year and say, where am I in these 7 areas? Where do I want to go? And what do I need to do specifically to make that happen? And overcoming blockers and embracing accelerators and just mapping out a plan to a better, more balanced life. But in that event, we talk about the culture we're in right now. Like it or not, this isn't like an opinion. This is just statistically where we are as a culture. If we break down these 7 areas, and we know that 53% of first marriages end in divorce, 55% of us drive to a job we hate, debt is out of control, student loan debt just topped $1 trillion. Things are just, if we look at these categories, and if we don't pay attention, and if we keep doing what everyone wants us to do, we're going to be where everyone else is, which is overwhelmed and unhappy. And one of the questions then you have to start looking at, if this is what everyone else is doing, do I want to do that just because everyone else around me is doing it? And that brings us to a car payment. Everyone has a car payment. I've had car payments. I've had multiple car payments. I've leased cars. But every now and then you step back and go, is there another way? Like, is there another way? Because as a culture, we've been pitched that make a payment. If you look back, and I don't want to bore you with history, but if you look back at the history of credit or the history of debt, it started really with the car. Way back in the day, when people were buying things, they were paying cash for everything. And then when this big item came out, like a car, people couldn't afford it right away. They're like, oh, we've got a way that you can just finance it over time. And everyone loved that. But then people soon realized that the money wasn't only in the product, like the car, the money was in the financing. I heard, and I'm not going to take the time to Google it or check it, but I heard that Sears, which is now struggling as a company, ironically, but makes as much money from financing what it sells than off the margins, or the products of what it sells. So there's money in debt, and once people realize that, man, they're happy to borrow you money for everything. So yes, they're getting you something you want. You can buy something big and you can get it sooner rather than later, which everybody wants it now. But and I want you to hear this part today, if nothing else. Just because you can afford the payment doesn't mean you can afford the product. I'm gonna let that sit there, and we'll come back again. Just because you can afford the payment doesn't mean you can afford the product. I grew up in a family of car business people. My brother owns dealerships, my brother-in-laws work in dealerships, my uncle owned dealerships. So we talk a lot about the car business, and one of the things I'm amazed at, that when people come in to buy a car, many times they're not concerned with the total cost of the car. They're saying, I have an extra $450 a month. What is the most car I can get? And they're not even asking how many years does it take to pay it off? What is the interest rate? They're like, no, I like that car. Is there any way with my $450 a month I can get that car? And many people are happy to accommodate you by stretching out the payments and increasing the interest rate to get you what you want, which is a payment you can afford. But you don't realize over here, there are people making boatloads of money. Because if you think about it, if you think of money as a game, the person collecting the interest, the person making money off their money, is the person who's winning the game. So if you're making a payment and you put interest on top of it, they're winning. If you're putting money in an investment account and you're getting interest on top of that, you're winning. So I would look at that every time that you're putting interest on something, that is there another way? And that's why I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to rethink about this whole car payment thing. It's starting to sprinkle here in Phoenix today. Good news is I don't need my sunglasses. Bad news is it never rains in Phoenix. So we'll see if we can get through this without a second take. So this goes to the payment thing. I remember when this got real for me, that I realized that if I spend all this money, if just if a car payment just becomes a way of life, like I'm going to have car payments from 20 until I'm 80, and that's just like, it's like a light bill. I'm just going to have to pay it, which many people have normalized the car payment. I realized how much interest I would pay over time. And if you really think about it, if you really think about the only thing blocking you, most of the time, there's exceptions, but most of the time, the only thing blocking you from doing a car, from paying cash for a car, is ego. Because I had it. Like, I wanted a new car that I could have a low payment and impress people, and it wasn't even that nice of a car. It was a Cavalier, my first car that I put on payments. It wasn't that great, but it was like way better than what I had before when I had to pay cash or after, and that was a Pinto. So I had a Pinto, which, if you don't know what that is, you're not going to impress anybody with that. Google it. You don't impress anyone. But that's all I could afford if I paid cash. And when that caught fire, guess what I bought? I bought another Pinto. And it was because that's all I could afford. And it was embarrassing because the one that caught fire, I would drive. I was in college at the time. I would drive, and I couldn't park in this student parking lot because every time I turned it off, after you turn it off, it would smoke out of the hood. And everyone would go, hey, your car's on fire. I'm like, no, it just does that. I should have taken that as a sign because it eventually did catch fire. But and that's an ego thing, man. Like, dude, yeah, that's my car. That's my car. And at the same time, because loans are easy to come by, there were kids rolling in the student parking lot with, like, nice. But you had to have a bigger vision. You had to have a bigger vision that, you know what? If the world is going that way and they're going to just have a car payment the rest of their life, what if I did it differently? What would that look like? And this is where the numbers don't lie. I love numbers in money. So, based upon Oola numbers, this is last year's numbers. The average car payment in America right now is $479. So I just want you to think about this. So if you're like everyone else, you have a car payment of $479. The average loan now is 6 years at a rate of 9.6%. And the average car price is $26,000. So that just sets the bar. So if you think about that, if that's just the way it's going to be, you're just going to pay an inflation-adjusted $479 a month the rest of your life. All right, that's just life, man. That's what we do. We get car payments. But what if you thought about it differently? What if coming out of college or in college, you're like, you know what, I'm not going to do the car payment thing because I've seen people do that and they never get out of that trap. They're just in it and they just think it's a way of life. And I'm using the S&P index as an investment. So remember, I said the person winning the money game is the person collecting the interest. So in that car payment, there's interest on it, so they're winning the money game. Now, let's say I took that $479 and I dumped it into an S&P index fund, which they start paying you on that as that grows. And now you're winning the money game. So you're driving the crappy car, right? You're driving the beater or whatever you can afford. And instead of making the ongoing monthly payment, you take that same $479 starting at age 21, and by age 30, you'll have $86,000 saved. If you continue to save that $479, so you continue to do that, at age 40, if you started at 21, you'll have $323,000. And this is using the S&P index fund average from 1928 to 2014, and that's 10%. At age 50, just continuing, instead of like going to a car payment, you're paying yourself in the form of investment into this S&P index fund, you have $940K. And at 65, which is retirement, you'd have $4.1 million. Crazy effect of compound interest, and crazy effect of you being the one winning the money game by you being the one collecting the return on that money. So yes, that's an example, and statistics vary, and yes, you will need to be funding a fund so that as your cars wear out, you can do that. So even if you divided that by half, even if you said, I will take half of that, $240 roughly, and I'll invest it, and I'll take $240 and put it in a fund to save up for my next car 3 years from now or whatever, you'd still have $2 million and you'd be slowly upgrading cars. I just think that on these Money Mondays, we need to relook. We need to see it raining there. We need to wrap this up is what we need to do. But we need to look at how we're spending money and how everyone else is, and actually question it. And I love the way to think about it is like, when I'm collecting dividends or returns or interest, I'm winning. When I'm paying it, whether it's on my mortgage, whether it's on the washing machine, whether it's on the thing, and I know, and really, if you really think about it, most of the time, the only thing getting in the way is our ego. And if you can be humble enough to drive something crappy for a while, later you can drive whatever the heck you want. And if you can be humble enough to not worry about impressing other people, you're going to build financial security for you and your family, which is way more valuable and way more rewarding than impressing anyone on a car that you've leased to the extent of your ability to borrow. So no matter where you are, if you're a 21-year-old kid, relook at this car thing. If you're 55 or 60, relook at this car thing, because every time you're making this payment, you're making someone else, you're actually building their financial dream. And why not start building your own? So until I see you next Monday on Money Monday, check out some of the other videos here. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when new videos come out on this YouTube channel. Until we see you then, be grateful, have faith, and go get your Oola life.